Welcome again to C++ tutorial. Uh, then like now, let's do something like you will hear people talking about variable. So when they talk about the variable, let's do now we're creating a file. So like remember, then we do have something like ID, which is a Visual Studio code block. Many of them which are there, so which are the IDs, so then where you can write your code inside. So I'm using a nano, which is my IDE, where I write my code. So I'm saying hash include iostream. So like now, let's talk about hashtag include iostream, which is a, I call it a library or header file. But then when you say it's a library, remember that a library contain something inside. Like as a student, when you maybe you need a book, you know that if you go to the library, you can find the book that you need. So like in C++, uh, a hash include iostream, which is a preprocessor. So like now it knows that okay, uh, inside this file, that means it's going to output something. Remember on our last video we do about we were dealing with a namespace std namespace something. So like today I will be using namespace, using name namespace std. So like now, why do have this kind like remember because like it's a programming language, it contain a skeleton how you write your code using C++. So like remember, just take it as a line that is always there in your skeleton as a beginner level. But then remember we do have int main, which is our main function. That's where the code is going to execute. So if it's where it's going to execute, everything that we're going to write inside is going to execute. So remember, let me write a comment. We say we're dealing with a variable, with a variables. We do have many variables that we can think of in C++. We do have an integers which stores whole numbers, and then we do have a double which stores um like double which stores a decimal numbers, and we do have a char which store single characters. Then we do have a bool, which is a boolean that which stores true or false, which is the basic data type that you can know. So then we do have, because we're talking about the variable, we do have a local variable, a local variable. Okay, let me use this kind of comment. Yeah, like now, remember a compiler is going to ignore these two lines that say variable and local variable. A local variable is anything that we're going to write inside our main function, in the scope of main function. So everything that we're going to write inside, like for example, when say like say int, I'm just saying int x uh equal to 4. Or for example, remember this one is a local variable because like I'm using another type of integer which stores a whole numbers. Then x is a variable. It's a variable, but then at the moment it's inside my main function where the compiler execute the code. So like now we can use a global. So remember, we do have a local, maybe say like you stay around South Africa because you're a citizen, but then maybe you have a friend or who stays overseas, like maybe America or UK, wherever she or he stays. Then now we say like you want to communicate with that person. How can you do? We say we can do a global variable. So like now remember, we can say let's use a double to store, which stores a decimal number. So like now we say double pi, which is the example that I like to use the most. pi, which is 3.14159. So like now, remember, it's double. It's as we call it a global variable. So like now, as it is a global variable, that remember we wrote it before we go inside our main function. Then now, what can we do with this kind of thing? So we want to call a double, a pi. Remember, it's not inside our main function where the code execute. So how can we call that? So remember, we can see out pi and see what will be the output. So we're dealing with which is the basics, which is the first thing that you have to know in C++, which is how to see out. Like remember, you do have a container. A container, inside our container we store something. Maybe we stored um integer data type, like maybe 1 2 3 4. Those number are inside my container. This C out line, which is this one, this C outline, we are telling that a compiler that okay, now go inside my container, my pi container, and give me what was inside my container. Then now it will show me that okay, the compiler will run. So like guys, before I execute the code, let me talk about something which is a return zero. This is the thing that you see every time when you write a basic function, a basic program, a basic software. I don't know what you call it, but then now you see how ugly it is. So then this is how we write our simple code. So like now we know that okay, what else we're dealing with a variable. So like now we do have a global variable. So like now as we do have a global variable, let's write a comment. So like now we call it a global or var, which is therefore a variable. Then now, because we do have a global variable, then inside our main function we do have a local variable where we stored int x and the pi, and then we want to see out pi. Remember, the pi is at the global variable, it's not inside our main function. So like now, in this code, that's how we write a skeleton for C++. If you want to see out anything, so you write your code like this in C++. Let's see what will be the output. Let's save the file and run. Look now, remember, because I'm using a mini Linux, so like now we do have many ways to run our code. We do have a compiler. A compiler is there to for syntax error, to see inside your code that did you do any mistake? No, it will check and then it will translate, and it also translate uh your C++ program into a computer's programming language, which is like oh, remember that okay, which a computer only understand zero and ones. So like now we do have a G++, which is a compiler, or we do have a slang plus plus for C++. Then now we wanna use like we wanna check if there was a syntax error in our program that we just wrote. So which is a variable, yes, dot cpp. Then now after checking, it will see that okay, if there was no error, then translate, then hyphen, which is a, I don't know, it's a hyphen or this I don't know the sign, what to call it, slash o. Then now I don't know, it's a slash o, it's a hyphen, but then okay, that one is so. Then we're telling that okay, now translate into a language that a computer understand. Remember, our code that we wrote is going to be stored inside our RAM. Remember, then now after it's being stored inside our RAM, then a compiler again will give us the output after checking and translate. So like now we want our output file to be named variable with no .cpp or .something, just like this. Let's run the code and see how we did our code. So if it ran, you will see the dollar sign. If it gave me, if there was a syntax error, it will show me that on which line there was a syntax error. So good thing is that, okay, there was no syntax error. Then let's run the code, which is a variable. Which is a variable. You see, it gave me 3.1.5 because it was pi. That was the output of pi. Because remember, we use a global variable, but then we inside our main function we just call it, which is was not there inside our inside our local function. It was outside our local function. Then we call it, and then eventually it did allow us to call it. Then like now, let's go back to our code. Then when we go back to our code, let's see. We do have many data types that we can think of. Like we do have let's talk about, let me do something like, okay. So like now, because we were talking about the global variable and local variable, like now then let's talk about the data type. Data type. When we talk about the data type, guys, remember first one we do have an integer which stores a whole number, which stores whole numbers. You see, people they think maybe C++ is the hardest language, but then remember C++ is a static hypertext. So then everything that we write, everything that we tell a compiler, everything that we tell a computer, we have to initialize. We have to tell a computer that we're going to use this kind of data type so that it gives us the output. It's not like maybe using a dynamical hypertype text, which like Python, for example, because Python we can say like x equals 2, that it knows that we are talking about the integers. Then we do have something which is double. A double stores decimal numbers. So like now, because it stores decimal numbers, then let's talk. So that means let's see, for example, then if I say like the pi, then as considered a pi s3, what will be the outcome? Will it give me the output or will not? It won't give me the output. It will give me the output. Is that then it knows that, okay, we can initialize a decimal number, but then inside our integer data type we cannot, because it only stores whole number. If we say 0.5, it will give us the output of 4 only without the 5, because like now it doesn't read the decimal number. So then we do after the we do have a number 3, data type 3, which is a char. The good thing about char is to store single character. So the good thing about using char, maybe you're writing a file or a form, or then maybe you're generating a software that will store initials, something like which grade, the grade, because grade, because you are at grade A, grade B, grade C. Then we use char as the example, which stores the single characters. Then now, the number 4, which is because we're still dealing with basic data type at the moment. So like now, let's talk about something like which we call it string. So a string is therefore it allows us to write a sentence. We can write a sentence, or we can initialize names. Names or anything. But then how can we write down those things? So like now, then number 5, before we write the code. The number five, which is a bool, which is therefore which is it's a boolean, but if we write a bool, then C++ knows, a compiler knows that okay, you are trying to say true or false. It only deal with true or false or false. Then now, that's all about the basic data type that you can know of at the moment. Then now, okay, let's write them inside inside our main function. So like now, we can say char grade. Remember, grade is a variable name. It's a variable name. So like now it knows that okay, we're creating a we are creating a storage which is going to be grade, which it allow us to store the single characters. So like now, how do we do that? Maybe we have to use a single quotation. So grade A. So like now it knows if we see out. Let me make this one as a comment because okay, it's not, because we already saw that how we can initialize. So then before I go forth, guys, then you may be asking yourself, there's this line people they like to write. So remember, like, okay, we're saying char grade, then end line. So like we can't write it here. I was just trying to show you. Then now let's use something which is for string, which a string stores names. It allows us to store names. So like let's stay there. Okay, maybe we'll say like for example, maybe we do have a name of an office. Maybe we say office. Then now equal to something. So now when we deal about the office, so like now let's have a chat, guys. When we have a chat, so like because in a single character we use a single quote. So then in a string we use a double quote. So a double quotation mark. So like now we say leader as my name, leader. You can write yours, Nechisauru. Nechisauru. So remember now, leader Nechisauru is being stored somewhere inside our RAM, because like we are writing a software to store a string name which is going to be string office. The office is being called leader Nesau. That's the name of the office. So like now we do have a bool. We do have a bool. Remember, you see a bool is there. So like now there's a thing, guys. It's okay. Let me do like this. Let me remove, because like okay, remember that we did use the hashtag include iostream. Then like now let's remove using std namespace std. We did remove it. It will run with no error, né? But we do have to show that everything that we'll be writing, it is found inside our standard library. So like now that's where you will see something they say like std colon string name. So like remember, a string is found inside our standard library. If we don't show that okay, string is found inside our standard library, just said string without using namespace std at the top. So this code will give us error. But then if you shows that is found std, then now a compiler knows a boolean, because when I say a student, we are saying like now a student. We want to check if leader is there, if there's a office for a leader, which is called leader, true or false. Then we say true. At the moment, the good thing about boolean is when we're doing about the controlling the flow of a program. So like maybe we want to see if we write this statement, that's why we'll be dealing with the if statement, else if, and else statement, loops. The way we'll be dealing with the loops, because we do have a do while loop, for loop, and a while loop inside our C++. I think that three, the only three that we know, because beside using switch. So okay, like now we did row one, two, three, and four, which are five. So then later on, because I did already show you the double when we execute the pi. Uh, then now we do have a float. What's the difference between float and double? So the bytes. That's where we'll be dealing with the bytes, because like now float only stores 4 bytes, but then double stores 8 bytes, which is going to be 32 or 64 or 40 something, which is there. But then I will see when we write when we're checking the size of a data type. So for now, let's see out something. So because see out is the standard, is found inside, to see out something is found inside our library. So that's where you see, that's where now we'll be talking about hashtag include iostream. So I just stand for inputting something inside our library, then O, we are outputting something from the library. So like now, let's go to the code. So we just say see out, which is with double left angle. So like now we want to see out a string name, which is going to be office. Then now let's talk about something. So there are, remember, let me write it without, okay. And you may be asking yourself, why am I ending with a semicolon every time inside when I'm writing my code? Okay, it's a statement terminator. Uh, Inside our C++, we call it a statement terminator. Then we're telling that, okay, a compiler, that I wrote my statement. Then now I came to the end. I don't want to add anything. So like now, check for something else inside my code. About see out thing, I'm done writing that. So let's see, when we run our code, we want to see what will be the output of the office. So then we say X, then we run. Then remember, I'll just tell you that I'll be using a Slang++, which is my compiler. There's a G++. There are many compilers that I can use, but then I like using Slang++ and the G++. Then now, as I'm using Slang++, let's run the code and see what will be the output at the moment. So guys, you may be asking yourself, what am I using? Because this one is a phone. I'm using a phone because a phone, it contains an environment where I can write my code, which is a Termex for Android. And we do have a userland inside Android that we can use to write our code. So like now it ran with no errors. Let's see what will be the output, which is a variable at the moment. Copy and paste. You see, it gave me leader, but then the $sign is after the output. So like now, how can I solve that? Let's go back to our code. How can we solve that? Because like now it seems ugly on how we wrote our code. So then let's go to the coutting statement, which is this one. Then now we initialize the left angle. So there are two ways to solve that. So firstly, we can say angle, then we can use a right slash, right slash, I think it's a slash, right slash. Then now a compiler note, this is a symbol that should symbolize that, okay, now I came to the end of the statement. Then go to the second line to write the code. Everything that you'll be doing, it must be on the second line, or we can delete this one and use and L. That's where it knows that, okay, it can go to the second line. So let's see, when we use and L, and we will still use the old one that we did use. So like now let's run and see what will be the output, how the output will be executed. So like now, oh okay, you see, like now, as I told you, like a compiler is there to see if there's a syntax error. So remember, inside my code I didn't include using namespace std. That means every time when I see if I'm using a data type which is inside my standard library, I have to use std. So like now, let's go back to our code nano variable dot cpp. So like now, uh so then it was here. Sorry, I forgot to write that one. Std colon colon. So like now, let's save the code and run it again. Okay, when we run a code, because we're using a copy, let's check if there's a syntax error again, because we solved the syntax error. So there was no syntax error again. So like now, we say variable. You see, now the dollar sign is after the office name. That's how we write a variable, and that's how we use our data type. So like now, let's go back to our code. And okay, let me write a new one. Nano, let's use user input. User input dot cpp. Okay. Let's continue. So like now, this is my IDE. It's plain. There's nothing inside. So hash, which is the first thing that we do. So like now, it knows that okay, hash include. That means it knows that okay, a compiler now knows that we're going to use a header file, which is a IO stream. We do have many. You will see when we continue with the code. Then now we say hashtag include IO stream. As we say, like we are not using namespace std at the moment. So like now, so you'll be asking yourself, why did I use a double brackets but then inside I didn't wrote anything? So inside this one are called parameters, so we can write argument inside, but this, because it's a main function, then it's not necessary to write anything. You can write char and int, anything that you can write, but then it's not compulsory. But then for, because it's not compulsory to write it, so like now we want to ask a user to insert. Let me now, we say we're creating a calculator. Creating a simple calculator. So remember, a calculator, create a calculator. That means we can add, we can subtract, we can multiply, and then we can divide. So C++ contain an operator system, operator program, which is we can use for, which is a module. This kind of module, which is a percent. It knows that okay. Remember, we'll be talking about the remainder. When we talk about the modular, we'll be talking about the remainder. Maybe we say 10 divided by 3. You know it's going to say 369, but then it will left 1. The output is going to be 1 if we are using a module. So then let's do a simple calculator. We're going to ask a user to insert a value, then we calculate them. So like now, we do have an initialization. We can initialize something and then we can declare. So we can say int, which is a data type for inserting whole numbers. So like now, let's say x. Remember, we are declaring. This being called declaration. Then now, because we declare something, then we can write another int y. Because mathematical they like to use x and y and a and plus and b. So like now we'll be using x and y. I don't know why they like to use those two, because maybe they are simple to remember. It's even this. Okay, let me initialize the value. So like how we can initialize, we say is equal to 6. Then now this one is called initialization. Initialization. So what's the difference between declaration and initialization? So like now, remember, and then we cannot overload a variable inside because it tells you that okay, now we cannot write another int 6, int x, and then, or let me say int y, because we did initialize y. At the moment we can say a y equal to 7. Remember, we did initialize equal to 6. That means it's going to can tell when you run your output, when you run your code, it's going to say y equal to 7, not y equal to 6 plus 7. It won't add them, or it won't see. I'll give you the output of both y that you did wrote inside your program. So how can we do that? How can we do that? So like now, what we can do, if we wanna use to use the same, like we can use a global variable. So we can state like int y equal to 7. So it allows, because like now it seems like we are using a global variable, but then firstly a compiler is going to read the one which is inside the main function. Then after, if we did cancel this one as a comment, then we can state that okay, like now we can see out which the one which is inside in the global variable, which is outside the main function. So like now, as we are using user input, we wanna ask a user to insert the value of x. Thank you. Sorry. Then now let's talk about something. Then remember, we can ask a user. So like let's write a prompt. Let's write a prompt which is going to say std cout. That's how I like. Then we say, let's write something. You can write it or you can leave it. So like now, remember, then what I did is something which is, yes, okay, like now, looking nice. Why am I okay? Then now we can write a double, which is going to use std colon colon and l. It's just a prompt, guys. This one we call it a prompt. It's something which we want to have. We're just designing our calculator. Then we can write calculator or anything. But then like now, as we row, then we can say std again, cout. Sorry about that. I think my charger is not inserted rightly. So then now I think it's fine. So okay. Sorry. Then now let's talk about something. Let's write a statement. When we write a statement, we write a statement using a double quotation mark. Then now a compiler that know that we want to output a statement so that a user will see. So then we say calculator. That's the thing that you can write, guys. But then, so like now, std colon 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 and L. So like now you see how nice the code is. So like now what can we do? So let's start with the addition. Let's start with the addition. So like now this one is the comment addition. Addition which means that we're going to add, which means that we're going to add any values. Then let's start with then okay, you say we can write that okay, remember a sorry, okay. Remember that we can write something like x plus y, then we can write something like sum. Yeah, then okay, let's go here. Let's initialize something. Okay, int sum, which is a declaration. We're declaring that in sum because we're not going to store any value. So like now we're saying like x plus y, which is going to be the sum. So like whatever the user is going to insert, then when we add them, it's going to give us the output. So then how can we write it? How can we write it in a way that it will be nice? So the way I like to use, I don't like to use an int data type, but then I'll show you later what we can use in order to have something which is like a updated, like to show that we are at updated level. So because like int, which is something that which is usual to use to write. So like now let's see what we can do. So std, let's see std, okay, yeah, it's std. Let's ask a user like now to enter something. See out enter any value or any value of x. Okay, then remember it's a statement, so which is going to be there inside our, which is going to be there inside our in our console, inside in our console. So like now let's do std again. um See out, then let's write a mini statement x equal to the one that a user has inserted, x equal to, then remember I then say x, then okay, then and l, that means we're going to write std because we're using a standard library. Then now remember I didn't ask a user to insert any value. Then okay, let's go to this one and say std colon colon, then let's use cin, which is say like we are seeing, that means we are putting something inside the container. So like now we use the extraction symbol, which now a compiler knows that okay, seeing these two symbols, extraction symbols, that knows that we're going to store the value of x. So like now after inserting, because like we know that a we did create a stack or a node, which you're going to see when we do the stack and node for data structure. So like now we say C in X, which is going to store the value inside the location that we created. It's like creating a home. After initializing a declaring, we are creating a home that's going to store something, which is going to be a home for integer data type to store the whole numbers. So like now we are giving a user an access to insert a value. So like then after uh he or she will output, they will input a value. So like now let's see, after inserting std, that's where we can do a calculation, because we say we're dealing with the addition. So we say c out. Oh, then because like now we say c out uh x, let's say, remember I wrote something which is a sum. There are two ways to write sum, because we already declare that sum is going to store whole numbers. That means we can say sum equal to x plus y. Then we end with a statement terminator. So like now we can say inside our cout statement we can say sum. Then we say std colon colon and l and l. So like now we are done with the addition or operation. So like now let's copy the code, copy, and then paste. And then again, because our goal is going to be helpful, and then like now we can say paste, okay, which is going to be a division, division. Then now because we're writing a division, a now so there'll be something, okay, okay, that means there are short ways and long ways, guys. Then I'm going to use a long way for you to understand. So which is going to be for uh why I only need two. Let's use division. This one is a division sign. Then like now okay, say someone, and then later on we can use we can paste it again. Let's do for multiplication. So multiplication we can use a star. Don't write x. If write x, x would be considered as something like okay, as like what can I say, as a variable name, which is going to concatenate an error. So like now we do have an addition, division, multiplication. We left with a subtraction. Let's copy again and do subtraction. Subtraction, we know that is a minus sign. So doing the minus sign, which is this one, this symbol. So like now we are done with the so like now we can wrote this thing at the global, like globally. Copy, cut, copy. Let's let them for our code to be nice. Let's write them globally. If we were doing something like so remember we wrote those things be those additional, like a incrementing, declarating, everything. We wrote it outside our main function. Then inside our main function, like the first one is going to add the is going to add. So like now there's a mistake, so which I did, which this one is going to be 2 for multiplication, 2 2 for multiplication, and then 3 for subtraction. So then now let's go to our main function. Remember, we're creating a simple calculator. Then we did a, okay, let's use this one, the second one for subtraction. Subtraction, subtraction, and multiplication. After doing the multiplication, then we can do the last one, which is going to be uh multiplication. We have addition, subtraction, and multiplication and division. The last one, then because we already assigned, then number 3 is a subtraction, sum 3. We go inside our function for subtraction and makes, which is this one. Then we say sum 3. So like now we did this one, we do the additional, then we go to the additional and check. Then additional, and that's with a multiplication, which is sum 2, multiplication, which is number 2. Then which is left, we do have something like sum 1, 2, 3, 1, which is a division. Then we go to division, which is number 1. Okay, which is down here, 1. Then I think we're done writing a simple calculator. It contained too many things. So okay, I wanted to show you. So let's read the code to see if this is something that we miss. So inside our global variable, we say int sum, then we declare our sum, then we wrote our sum. When initialize the sum equal to x plus y, then we write another function which is contain the variable name of sum1, which is going to be a division. So remember, now we have to state 1, because if we don't do that, it was going to this is because we call it, in Java programming we call it testing. So like before testing, we are checking. So 2, if we did any mistake, so that's where, so we don't want to use a compiler to check for a syntax error, which we would have seen. So like now, after writing, then we see that okay, x we did initialize. Then we are using a same x, which we are asking a user to insert a value. Then we did initialize the y value. So then inside our main function, then we check. State, okay, I think there's no mistake. So because like now we're not using a switch, we're not using any loop, we're just writing a code for a simple calculator. That's all that you need to know. Then now I think this code is what's going to run an error because we didn't close. So let's run a return 0, then a statement terminator, then we close our code with a curly brace. then we save X. So that means because we did close, so how are you going to see that we're asking a user to insert a value? So how you are going to see, then let's use a another compiler like G++. You can use any, we can use still use C slang plus plus, but then now I want to show you that there's no difference using a compiler, because the main function for a compiler is to check the syntax error, and for translation to translate a C++ programming language into a language that a computer understands, which you're going to use. Then say, they will say user input copy, then we write. You see, that's fine. Let's run and see if we did have a syntax error inside our code, which we didn't see. Let's see. If we see a dollar sign, you see there was a syntax error. Okay. Stdc out, then mean after std, you see, okay. Let's start from the ish. Okay. Like now, let's start from the top. Okay. You see, it gave me that type specify is required for all declaration. Then we do have some one int y x and y. Then okay, I can see the errors. So okay, let's go to our back to our code, which is nano, and then which are the things that I didn't check. I just noticed that okay, we did initial the int sum equals to x plus y, which is fine. Then int sum, then now, okay, I think the way I wrote copy. So guys, remember, for you to become a pro, you must have syntax error for you to know how you can rectify your errors. So like now, paste. So like now, you can say, let's use it simple. I want to show you, okay, other way that we can write our code in a simplest form, like a professional. So like now, okay. So remember, a C++, it doesn't know about sum and sum one, sum two. They're not there inside our standard library. So we have to tell that we're using an int, okay. Then int, it allows guys to write our code or this way. Then int, okay. So like we did use them globally. So like now, copy, and let's later. Let's not use a global variable at the moment. Let's use okay, let's use a local variable inside our main function. So like now, let's check another error. Like now, there's no error, syntax error, because we did initialize the x and y was there. So like now, Oh, this one is fine. I think the first error it was here. So there's no error in the first line. So let's check. Okay. I don't think there's an error. Here. You see, that's where the error which is was supposed to be and L. Then we'll close. Okay. Even here, which is going to be and L. Then where else? On the division and L. And then we'll close it. Okay. That means now it's fine. Let's see if there's something we did miss. So we will write everything until we find that the code runs. So, like, that's how we learn to see that, okay, I'm doing anything correctly. That doesn't mean that I know that you will know. You'll be impressed. But then when you see the syntax error, that's where you will learn that, okay, if we do this and this, that means this way is not supposed to be like that. We have to find a way that we can initialize and declare and see out and write our code according to how a compiler understand, and it will able to translate and execute the code. Let's see if there was a syntax error again. So if we see a dollar sign, that means the code ran. If the it you see now there was no syntax error. So like now let's run the code. Ish, okay, something okay. It is supposed to be no. This one is not the one. I can see that I'm running the error with the wrong code G++, which is was supposed to be user input. Let's not celebrate yet until I say user input. Okay, let's see. Let's cross finger. Let's see if there was no syntax error. So a variable C++ is the another file that we did previously. Then now it ran successful. There was no syntax error. Then let's run a user input and see what will be the output. So like now you see that prompt that we're talking about, the star is there. Then it's after star is a calculator, because we just wrote a prompt statement to see out a calculator. Then it say enter any value of x. Then we say 2. Then enter any other value of x. Say 3. That means I don't know. That means because like then x equal to 3, then 6. So remember, we can that means there's something that which I did. I didn't change the value, but then it was supposed to be the value of x every time. 3. You see, which is -6. Then when we enter 3 again, you see it's 0. That means it's subtraction. This one was multiplication. This one was multiplication. 3 times 3, which is 9. No, it was okay. 3 times okay. This one is was addition, which is 6. Then division, which is -6. This one I think was division. It's a divide 3 divided by 3. I don't know why it's giving me -6, but then we check about that. You see, it says there. So like now you can see we can do a simple calculation. Is that then how I wrote my code? I can't remember some of the thing. That's how I wanted to show you the important thing, that then how we can write and how we can calculate, how we can use an operation system inside our C+ program. So like now, let's say clear. Uh okay, let me say something like okay, let's check. Okay, let's go to a string. Like now let's do string dot string one dot cpp